Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Friday's edition of NMH at 1. I'm Priska Anyolo, and I'm bringing you highlights of news from around the country today. Of course, at this stage, everyone is waiting in anticipation for President Hage Geingoob's announcement scheduled for 3 p.m. this afternoon, so please do stay tuned for that. Speaking of all things State House, Okhone Tlhage contributed this clip where First Lady Monica Geingob emphasizes that COVID-19 pandemic should not be seen as a hoax and that it presents a threat to human life.
We normally think of politicians and obviously powerful people. But I'm talking about teachers, I'm talking about police officers, I'm talking about wealthy people, I'm talking about politicians, I'm talking about everybody, parents. I've heard it in person. Too many people asking me, prominent people, wealthy people, asking me, is COVID actually real? The first time I was asked the question, I was like, this person is off. But the second and the third and the fourth time, I realized there are people who still doubt whether COVID is real. There are people who are still buying into the fake news that it's about selling vaccines and that we also shouldn't take the vaccine because it's going to harm us. And this is the danger of the internet. As much as we have everyday access to great information on COVID, there's also a lot of fake news on COVID. And that's the blessing and the curse of the online space. COVID has indeed changed.
Face-to-face lectures at the Namibia University of Science and Technology are scheduled to resume on Monday. The Minister of Higher Education, Dr. Ita Kanji-Murangi, inspected the campus yesterday. Speaking in this clip is Acting Vice-Chancellor Andrew Nikondo. Justicia Shipena submitted this clip.
Good afternoon, I'm Yolanda Nel, and with me is Liana Exhibit from the House Marua Children's Home here in Windhoek. Liana, welcome.
Thank you very much, Yolanda. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, I would like to know how are things going with House Marua at the moment?
At the moment, it's going. But yeah, the basic needs, we can luckily say that we have to supply to the children. We can help them with the basic needs. They're still getting the 3 balanced meals every day and so on. But the big concern we have at the moment is the cash flow. We're getting a lot of food that helps us a lot, but we still have bills to be paid. And that's a big concern for us at the moment.
The municipal bill is one of your biggest expenses, right?
That's right, yeah. You're looking, water and electricity, it averages about 30,000 Rand a month. We have 3 houses on the premises.
Apologies about that. I did say we're going to play a NUST video, but that was an insert of the House Marua at Marua Mall. As is the case at almost all welfare organizations across the country, House Marua in Windhoek also faces financial difficulties. Liana Etzebet, who you just saw now, was speaking to Yolanda now about the state of the welfare organization and what they have planned.
There's 22 children plus the 6 house parents. And yes, the office is operating 5 days a week with the staff here. So that adds up. And I mean, if you take one household, what is your goal? 5,000 plus a month. So yeah, that's our biggest concern, is to get the utility bills paid, the stationery bills, the therapy costs of the children. That is so important. We cannot skip that. And yeah, like I said, the government grant is a mere 470 Rand per child per month, if you get it.
Yeah, that's the other side of things and having a welfare organization. But you are currently busy with a project.
Yes, unfortunately, due to this COVID-19, all of our fundraising events had to be cancelled. So we only have the one fundraising event for this year that we left with, and that is our raffle draw. It's a big competition. It's huge. We only have 100 books on the competition. There's 11 raffles per book. The reason for that is if you decide to take a book and sell it for us, the 11th raffle is yours for free.
Wow.
So that is just a little bit of thank you from our side, and to encourage the people as well to take a book and sell it for us. The tickets are going at $1,000 Namibian each, the raffles. A lot of people, yes, wow, it's a lot of money, yes, especially the times that we are in. We know that, but I have quite a few tickets that's been sold where friends come together and say, okay, we 4 of us, we enter, and each one of us pays $250 to take part in the competition. Why we made it $1,000 is because the tickets are very limited.
Yes.
So the chances of winning is so much bigger.
But what are some of these prizes that we can win?
That is the exciting part that I'm getting to now. The first prize is a Toyota Hilux GD6 4x4 double cab bakkie.
Well, in these times, I'm sure anyone will be excited to get their
Anyone
hands
would
on
like
those
the
keys.
bakkie like that. Yeah, so the value of that bakkie, you can go to Toyota, it's estimated 565,000 Rand. So for a chance of $1,000 to participate, or even to buy a whole book for $10,000 to be there in the queue for this bakkie,
Exactly.
or even the second prize, which is 50,000 Namibian dollars in cash.
Wow.
I mean, that's also, I think anybody can do with that money at this moment. Even if you are 2 or 3 that bought the ticket together and you split it up, it's still worth it.
Exactly.
And then the last one is a weekend for 2 at a Gondwana Lodge. Also with your bed and breakfast and dinner included. So we think the prices is really worthwhile, the price of the ticket.
Exactly. Well, there you have it, Namibia. If you want to open your hearts and your pockets, please support this cause, and we will see you again. Goodbye.
And now for the NUST video. Face-to-face lectures at the Namibia University of Science and Technology are scheduled to resume on Monday. The Minister of Higher Education, Dr. Ita Kanji-Murangi, inspected the campus yesterday. Speaking in this clip is Acting Vice Chancellor Andrew Nikondo. Justisha Shupena submitted this clip.
Within this phased return approach, we now expect the next group of students to arrive here on campus this coming Monday, which is the 3rd of August this year. We expect them now to come. The expected students that are coming on Monday are also to practice this strict social and physical distancing, compulsory wearing of masks, and also maintain highest hygiene possible, and also to comply with all the health and safety measures which they are going to find here on campus. Those who are coming, we already have all the protocols, and what we are saying is that when they come to comply with the already established protocols here on campus. The implementation of this gradual and phased return approach for face-to-face sessions, as health and safety conditions allow, does not necessarily mean that the current emergency remote online teaching and learning will stop. we are not going to stop with that one, we continue. Therefore, students who do not receive an invitation from the university to come or to return to face-to-face studies will remain at home and continue to study as before in online remote learning.
Onus is on all of us to put up a fight against this virus by following and enforcing the health protocols amongst those that are entrusted to our care. And I dare say that starts with our own family members, immediate or extended, those who work with us or under us, and in the case of all of us here, our students, the youth of our country. As they will soon start converging here for lessons, lectures, it is our responsibility to roll out a repertoire of measures that will ensure their safety as well as your safety as staff members and leaders here.
That's pretty nice devices for them to play with. I trust that they are both safe and learn what they need to learn at the same time.
Am I wrong to think that really of all the different years of students, first year, third, second, and so on, the most hard hit, in my view, in my own analysis, is that are the first years, because the first semester in which they normally adjust to university life was the most that was disrupted.
Exactly. Yeah, you're 100% right. By third and fourth year, they've already learned how to learn, how to study by themselves. But first year really is a time where they're still finding their feet.
Exactly.
So it's very unfortunate for them.
Staff members at NAST who lack capacity in the application of technological devices for teaching, or where skill gaps are identified in the broader field of e-learning facilitation, Acting Vice Chancellor, please ensure that those are upskilled soonest. Going forward, as government, we want to see a solid, integrated or blended teaching system at our universities, that is public universities, where face-to-face and e-learning become truly blended modes of teaching.
Every time you have a register and you enter, we used to have one student standing there, one of our intake. When the students enter, we sanitize them, and then they write their details, surnames, and they sign their location, whether they stay in Namibia or whatever, everything. So we keep all the details. We have a box with registers in our student.
Now, having worked in this lab for some time with students, those who are on campus now, what would you say are some of the challenges that you have with regards to keeping the protocols or observing the protocols?
Yeah, in our labs, one of the challenges would be working benches. We don't have enough workstations, so normally in the past they used to share. Now they have to rotate, like they need to come each and every day for the whole week. So that's a challenge. Now we mostly work every day. Even sometimes we'll be forced to work even on a Saturday, so that we adhere to the guidelines and safety measures.
So your timetable, besides that of the students, is also somewhat stressed. You work beyond the normal hours that you would otherwise work.
Yes, work anytime.
Do you foresee going forward making some of these practical simulations online?
Yes. Again, electrical is probably simpler to do that with mechanical and civil engineering, where you have water flowing through things to demonstrate, becomes a little bit more difficult. But yes, certainly that is what we're looking at. We definitely want to go that route.
Directly respond to the challenge at hand and save humanity. COVID-19 is an indictment on our scientists, academics, and researchers to act swiftly and come up with clear responses in the 8 thematic areas of the high-level inter-universities research task force I launched some time ago. The nation is eagerly waiting to hear what the outcome of this high-level research team is.
Itself, the theory was already done online. We could actually manage, because in a day you can just bring in one group, and then maybe you can have 3 sessions with them, and the second group comes in the following day.
I see that your practicals here, the way you have those whatever, what do you call them? The pictures there.
Yes.
It links very well to vet medicine. I'm just wondering, those who graduate from this program, where do they end up in the job market? And how is it well articulated to the vet program, or it's something that hangs on its own?
Yeah, it's more or less hanging on its own, but there is a very strong link with veterinary services, because these people, for example, you find them working for Mitco. Any place that have got to maintain food hygiene, testing of food that we're also importing into the country. So they're also working there, like Namibia Standard Institutes. Yes, unfortunately.
If you go down there to 207, the other building, it's even west. It's even west. There's no
Buildings don't do the thorough job with whatever you're doing. You go to just structures, but not to finish them. How come we build these things, we don't put proper finishing?
Yeah, like the other one.
I urge you to strive to bring out those findings in the near future and provide some solutions to the situation in our country.
Sticking with COVID, developments in the reporting of cases in Namibia will definitely have an impact on government's announcement this afternoon about changes to lockdown regulations. Your Monitor today takes a look at the average new cases confirmed per day for the 7 days up to Wednesday. We are comparing that with the daily average for the 7 days before that. These are the numbers for Walvis Bay, Swakopmund, Windhoek, and the rest of Namibia. Walvis Bay has 1,795, or rather 87.5% of Namibia's more than 2,000 confirmed cases. The daily average for this harbour town, the epicenter of the local outbreak, has contracted slightly from 62 to 58 new cases per day. The daily average for Swakopmund increased slightly from 2 to 3. Walvis Bay's northerly neighbour has recorded 71 cases. Windhoek now has 102 confirmed cases. The daily average over the last 2 weeks more than tripled from an average of 2 to 7 new cases per day. The average for the rest of the Namibia, which now has 80 cases, also more than doubled. On average, 5 new cases were reported per day compared to 2 during the previous 7-day period. The announcement by State House as well as case data for yesterday is expected at 3 p.m. today. At the commemoration of the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, Namibian authorities warned that while Namibia has become a global anti-trafficking leader, the number of reported cases are picking up in Namibia. They also warned that now more than ever, the fight against human trafficking needs to be intensified amidst the global pandemic, which is creating more opportunities for traffickers to exploit vulnerable people.
While all the Southern African region is affected by this crime, the number of reported and detected cases is slowly but surely picking up in Namibia. Although it is not yet alarming, hence there is a growing concern though. Last year we reported that the Namibian police force had identified a trend of trafficking in persons between Angola and Namibia, where young Angolan boys and girls were being recruited by either Angolan nationals in Angola or Namibians who travel to Angola to recruit them for employment in Namibia as cattle herders or domestic workers. To remedy the situation, a joint technical subcommittee meeting was initiated. We are glad to report that, or to indicate today that incidents of this nature have declined, although the statistics may not necessarily be reflective of the entire reality of the prevalence on the ground. We wish to report that the Namibian police force currently has 48 cases on hand, as opposed to the 35 cases reported last year.
As we are facing the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic, the essential role of the first responders and service providers has become even more critical, particularly as the restriction imposed by the pandemic have made their work more difficult. COVID-19 has presented us with many social challenges, including that of people losing their jobs. This might cause the vulnerable and desperate members of society to become prey to the traffickers, especially young people. Trafficking may entice them with promises of employment both inside and outside the country.
There are an estimated 25 million victims of human trafficking throughout the world. No country is untouched by its reach. Traffickers prey on the vulnerable. In the time of COVID-19, instability, lack of access to critical services, and economic suffering mean the number of people vulnerable to exploitation is rapidly growing. Traffickers continue to ensure victims are not free to choose where they live, how they work, or who has access to their bodies. In fact, they are capitalizing on the chaos of the pandemic, finding ways to increase their exploitation. Many trafficking victims are even forced to live in quarantine with their traffickers, since a large number of traffickers are actually family members of victims, and online exploitation is surging. We cannot allow the response needed to slow the pandemic decrease the chance that these victims get the help that they need. Now, more than ever, we must secure access to services for victims and full support for first responders. As you know, Namibia achieved a Tier 1 top ranking in the recently released 2020 Trafficking in Persons report this year. Namibia is the only country in Africa to achieve a Tier 1 ranking this year, joining just 34 nations globally. This is a result of Namibia's firm commitment to combating human trafficking and years of hard work by so many people. All of us, including Tier 1 countries such as the United States and Namibia, still have room for improvement in combating human trafficking and in supporting its victims. Today, on World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, let us all together recommit ourselves to that fight.
And now we move on to our daily newspapers. The Republican leads with fish rot implicated lawyer Maren de Klerk that says he fears for his life and that is why he cannot return to Namibia. The Namibian Sun leads with the heartbreaking news of how an impoverished mother who survived an earlier suicide attempt after a quarrel over government food donations committed suicide inside police holding cells. In the Allgemeine Zeitung today, all eyes are on President Hage Geingob at 3 p.m. when he will announce the next step in the fight against COVID-19. Meanwhile, residents of the Irongo region are calling for the lockdown to be lifted, with a petition about this enjoying great support. The Namibian leads with the Veterans Association saying that SWAPO's poor performance in last year's elections include independence candidates, infighting, tribalism and poor land delivery. In the New Era today, the sad news of little Philippus Nafimane's burial yesterday after he died in the Twaloloka fire on Sunday night. The AZ reports on increased safety measures at Avis Dam following the murder of Daniel Ferrari, while Republican reports on how various health service providers stated that they will not renew contracts with the state's medical aid fund. There's also the inspiring article from Luderitz by Tanya Bowser on Marion Schalkler, who started the first boat trips to see penguins up close. Inside the Namibian Suns today, Michael Kayunde speaks to award-winning actor and media personality Adriana Visagie. Also, don't forget to tune into Chill Sessions at 7 tonight for the latest on local music. From other national dailies, the Namibian reports on how the Oshana region is facing several challenges, including high youth unemployment. While the New Era reports that the Dr. Panduleni Itula's Independent Patriots of Change hosts its maiden convention in Windhoek today. Good news for soccer fans is that they are spoiled for choice this weekend, with both the annual Okahanya soccer tournament taking place in the Garden Town and the first leg of the KSU Kasu Winter Cup in the capital on Saturday. Next up, we do have a video insert of Sigrid Lange's presentation where he talks about leadership during COVID on the Business 7 section.
If you walk into a room and say, I don't know how we're going to survive this, what is everyone searching for? How am I going to survive? Okay? If you walk into the room and say, I've always wondered how we can benefit from this situation. Can anyone tell me how we can grow our organization in this time? Maybe you won't get answers straight away, but your people will start searching. So when we are sick and tired and stressed or very panicky about COVID, we start to become, we don't have the energy to take away our thoughts from ourselves, and we start to become a little bit narcissistic. I'm sure you've seen it around you. People's become more and more about themselves these days. Yeah. The second law is the law of slip. Now, the law of slip says you will always go to the worst first. And I've had people argue with me about this as well. Now, remember, I'm not saying you only go there. I'm saying you go there first, then you take your thoughts away there, and you put it at a better place. That's what you do. Okay. So you don't only go there. So some people are slower at taking it away, obviously. We know those people. They are draining. You don't want to be close to them. I hope you're not one of them. Then there are other people that are so fast at taking their thoughts away, you start thinking they're on drugs or something because they're just, I'm so glad, it's so wonderful. Even COVID is not a problem. And you think, okay, all right. So those two laws together link up to what I call the wild horse rule. Now, the wild horse rule is basically you think the worst about yourself first. This is why if somebody coughs in the corner there, your first thought is going to be, I'm going to get sick. And that's why you start panicking when that happens. Now, it's important to know this as leaders as well. Because as leaders, we often think it's about us. You know, you're not the center of the universe. You're not that important, okay? So you are important, but not that important. Everything doesn't happen because of you, Yeah, even if you are a leader of a big team, everything doesn't happen because of you, okay? But now let me show you what happens. So what is the first thing people think when they get called into the office? Who can give that a try? You get called into the office, I'm going to get fired. That's taking it to the next level, okay? So you get called into the office, the first thing you think is, I'm going to get fired, or I'm in trouble, or I did something wrong. Now, you walk to the office. Imagine the person you're reporting to just wants to talk about something, a report or something, whatever. You walk into that office like this. That person sees you walking in like that, and their wild horse goes crazy. They think you want to fight with them. Now they are freaking out, and they need to protect themselves. So they become aggressive towards you. And you think to yourself, you see, they only want to fight with me, these people. They just have bad intentions. So you have two people, both of them will tell you the other one had bad intentions. But actually you've got two wild horses that are attacking each other. And these two people don't realize that that is happening within them. As leaders, we need to realize what we say causes wild horses. What we do causes wild horses. And we need to be very aware of that. And we need to be very aware of our own wild horses and tame them or kill them or something like that. We need to be very careful that our wild horses don't prevent us from sharing information that people need to be able to navigate this difficult time that we're all in. We need to be bold enough to communicate the information in a sensible way, obviously, that people need to hear to navigate this time. You need to know that people's wild horse is going to tell them they're going to get fired even if it doesn't make sense. Because they know 5 or 6 people that got fired in this time, that did lose their job. We need to know as leaders that if we don't give people enough information, they'll start searching for things they shouldn't be searching for because of the wild horse. As leaders, we play a very important role in this time. Firstly, we must manage ourselves through the laws of our nature and other information you can get. I just spoke to somebody this morning that did an assessment and said, hey, it was a life-changing thing. There are things out there that we can use to get to know ourselves better so that we can manage ourselves and our emotions better, so that we can manage other people and their emotions better. So,
and that is it for today's show, our Friday edition. Please do stay tuned for the weather. I've been your host, Priska Agnolo, and see you next week. Again, same time, same place. Do have a great weekend ahead. And remember to sanitize and practice social distancing. Goodbye.